The sun gleamed off the smooth white hull of the Rhapsody of the Seas as it sliced through the turquoise waters of the Caribbean. On board, passengers reveled in the carefree atmosphere, a floating utopia of endless buffets, midnight parties, and exotic excursions. To the Bradley family, it seemed like the perfect escape, a chance to relax and bond after months of anticipation. But beneath the laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the ocean breeze, a hidden danger loomed, one they never imagined they would encounter. Amy Bradley wasn't keen on cruises. In fact, she had a deep-rooted fear of the open sea, despite being a strong swimmer and a trained lifeguard. But at 23 years old, with her family's encouragement, she reluctantly joined them on this voyage. A journey meant to be an adventure, a celebration. What the Bradleys didn't know was that this cruise would offer more than the sun-drenched beaches of Puerto Rico and Aruba. It would carry dark secrets that hid in plain sight. On the night of March 23, 1998, the ship rocked gently in the warm Caribbean waters. Amy and her brother Brad partied late into the night, their laughter blending with the soft hum of the ship's engines. By 3:40 a.m., they had returned to their cabin, and Amy, feeling uneasy from the boat's motion, opted to sleep on the balcony for some fresh air. Her father, Ron, glanced at her before drifting back to sleep. He could see her legs from the doorway. She looked peaceful, the ocean breeze probably doing its work. When Ron woke again just before dawn, something was off. The balcony door, which had been closed, now stood ajar. Amy was gone. It wasn't like her to leave without a word. A chill crept up his spine as he scanned the empty deck. Amy had vanished without a trace. Panic set in. The crew was slow to respond. Amy's mother, Eva, pleaded for an immediate lockdown of the ship. Her voice trembled as she begged them not to lower the gangplank at the Curaçao port, but her cries went unheeded. By the time they finally announced Amy's disappearance over the ship's loudspeakers, most of the passengers had already disembarked, free to wander the bustling docks. The official investigation that followed was cursory, at best. The crew insisted they had searched all 10 decks and 999 rooms, but found nothing. The search of the ocean yielded no results either. It wasn't long before the cruise line's narrative emerged. Amy must have fallen overboard, or worse, jumped. It was a convenient explanation, and one that allowed the ship to continue its voyage without much disruption. But the Bradleys refused to accept it. As they retraced Amy's last hours, more disturbing details surfaced. Crystal Roberts, a fellow passenger, recalled seeing Amy with a member of the ship's band early that morning. She had spotted them heading to an upper deck together, and just minutes later, the man returned, alone. Amy had not been seen since. The band member's sudden and strange behavior only fueled suspicions. He made an unsettling comment to Brad about feeling bad for what had happened to Amy, before anyone else even knew she was missing. It was a slip, one that gnawed at her family's hearts, but it wasn't enough to prove anything. Soon, a more sinister theory emerged, one that tapped into the dark underbelly of the Caribbean: human trafficking. Amy, young, beautiful, and American, was an ideal target. She had caught the eye of someone on board, someone who saw an opportunity. Was she lured off the ship, drugged and taken while her family slept, unaware of the nightmare that was unfolding? The Bradleys began to believe that Amy had been kidnapped, sold into a world they scarcely knew existed. The idea wasn't far-fetched. Rumors swirled within maritime circles about the trafficking of young women in the southern Caribbean, where human lives could be bought and sold like commodities. It was whispered that white women, especially tourists, were highly sought after. The open waters provided the perfect cover for such crimes. International waters meant that jurisdiction was murky at best, and the cruise industry had its own interests to protect. To this day, Amy Bradley's disappearance remains unsolved. Her family continues to search, offering a reward for any information that might bring her home. Over the years, there have been reported sightings, one from a tourist in Curaçao who swore she saw Amy being escorted by a group of men, another from a Navy officer who believed he encountered her in a brothel. Yet nothing has ever materialized from these leads. The truth is buried somewhere beneath the sun-soaked facade of paradise, hidden in the shadows of a world few truly understand. For the thousands of passengers who set sail each year on cruises like the Rhapsody of the Seas, it's easy to be lulled into a sense of security. The laughter, the music, the endless ocean, it all feels so safe, so far removed from the dangers of the real world. But for the Bradleys, that illusion was shattered. Their daughter disappeared into the void, taken by forces they never imagined existed. And as the ship sailed on, their nightmare had only just begun. Amy Bradley is not just a missing person. She's a chilling reminder that behind the gleaming exteriors of luxury cruise ships lies a murky world of secrets, where the ocean is vast, the witnesses are few, and the predators are always watching.
On the morning of February 11th, 1996, Kay and Mike Fletcher experienced an event so surreal, it has haunted them ever since. In their quiet home, the ordinary turned extraordinary when Kay suddenly saw smoke erupting from her own body. Startled, she thought her sweater had somehow caught fire. "I felt heat on my back," Kay recalled. "I asked Mike to check for burns, thinking I must have blisters or something. But Mike found no burns, no charred fabric, just redness on her skin." The Fletchers, puzzled and alarmed, inspected her clothes but found no evidence of fire damage. Strangely, the smoke was not coming from her clothing at all. It was emanating directly from her skin. Mike, recalling his time working at a crematorium, was struck by the eerie familiarity of the smell. "It was the smell of burnt flesh," he said, though there were no flames or burn marks on Kay's body. The Fletchers were left wondering if Kay had narrowly escaped one of the most terrifying and unexplained phenomena in human history, spontaneous human combustion, SHC. Though most cases of SHC result in death, Kay appeared to be one of the rare individuals to have survived such a bizarre event. Spontaneous human combustion has baffled both believers and skeptics for centuries. One of the more well-documented cases occurred a decade before Kay's experience, in March 1986. Kendall Mott hadn't heard from his father, George, all day. George, a retired firefighter with severe lung problems, relied on an air pump to breathe. When Kendall entered his father's house, he immediately knew something was wrong. The windows were darkened with soot, and the smell of burning was unmistakable. Inside, Kendall discovered what little was left of his father. There were just ashes, bone fragments, and part of a skull, Kendall recalled, struggling to comprehend the scene. Like many victims of SHC, George Mott had been reduced to ashes in a way that seemed impossible under normal conditions. The area around his remains was largely untouched. Wooden matches nearby had not ignited, and his air pump continued to run, undisturbed. The incident bore striking similarities to other SHC cases, including the infamous death of Irving Bentley in 1966. A gas company worker found Bentley's remains in his Pennsylvania home. Bentley, like George Mott, had almost completely turned to ash, with only part of a leg left behind. Despite the intensity of the fire that consumed his body, his surroundings, just inches away, remained largely unscathed. Larry Arnold, a researcher of spontaneous human combustion and author of Ablaze, has spent years investigating these strange occurrences. He believes the extreme heat necessary to reduce a human body to ash in such a short time can only be achieved in highly controlled environments, like crematoriums. To him, the isolated and inexplicable nature of these fires points to something more mysterious than a simple accident. Arnold speculates that SHC could be caused by an electrical malfunction within the human body itself, an explosive discharge of the natural electrical currents that flow through our systems. But not everyone is convinced. Joe Nickell, a senior researcher for Skeptical Inquirer magazine, dismisses these theories as pseudoscience. According to Nickell, most cases of SHC can be explained by mundane causes, such as dropped cigarettes or alcohol-related accidents. In George Mott's case, Nickell suggests that a combination of smoking, bedding, and the nearby oxygen supply could have easily started a fire. As for Dr. Bentley, Nickell believes the elderly man may have accidentally set his clothing on fire, falling onto flammable materials that acted as fuel. Arnold, however, is not satisfied with such simple explanations. He challenges skeptics to replicate the conditions of these deaths. "If you can burn a body to ash with a cigarette, then show us," he says. To this day, no one has successfully recreated the intense and localized fire that defines SHC cases. So, what really happened to Kay Fletcher? Did she narrowly escape becoming another unexplained SHC case? And if spontaneous human combustion is indeed a reality, what mechanism could cause a body to ignite without external heat sources? Despite centuries of investigation, no one has been able to definitively prove or disprove the existence of SHC. The debate continues, and for those like Kay Fletcher who have lived through such experiences, the mystery remains deeply personal. Whether a freak electrical occurrence, a misunderstood chemical reaction, or simply coincidence, spontaneous human combustion continues to defy explanation. And for now, we are left with only one unsettling question. Could it happen to you? Dutch Schultz, born Arthur Flegenheimer in 1902, was a notorious gangster who ruled New York's underworld during Prohibition. He amassed a vast fortune through illegal enterprises such as bootlegging, narcotics, and extortion. However, it is not just his criminal activities that cemented his place in history. Schultz's name has become synonymous with one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. His missing fortune, rumored to be worth $7 million at the time of his death, and valued at over $50 million today. As Prohibition came to an end, Schultz, like many gangsters of his era, found himself in the crosshairs of the federal government for tax evasion. Facing a lengthy prison sentence, Schultz took drastic steps to protect his wealth. According to legend, he ordered his trusted lieutenants to gather all his liquid assets, cash, Liberty bonds, gold coins, and priceless jewels, and hide them in a steel strongbox. Only Schultz and a few close associates, including his bodyguard Lulu Rosenkrantz, knew its location. The treasure was allegedly buried in the woods near Phoenicia, a small town in upstate New York. Schultz, an experienced bootlegger who used the region as a hideout, supposedly marked the spot by carving an X into a tree. Yet, before Schultz could ever retrieve the fortune, the criminal underworld turned against him. The powerful New York crime syndicate, worried that Schultz's erratic behavior and violent killing spree would bring unwanted heat from law enforcement, decided to take him out. On the evening of October 23, 1935, Schultz was ambushed at his headquarters, the Palace Chop House in Newark, New Jersey. Two syndicate hitmen stormed in, shooting Schultz and his associates. Although Schultz survived the initial assault, he died the following day from his wounds. His final hours, spent in a delirious state, were marked by incoherent ramblings. Authorities listened as he muttered about his money, horses, and odd fragments of seemingly disconnected thoughts. Among these disjointed words, many believe, lay cryptic clues to the location of his hidden fortune. With Schultz's death, only two people knew where the treasure might be: his bodyguard, Lulu Rosenkrantz, and a lesser-known gangster named Marty Krompier. But Lulu did not live long enough to pass on the secret. He succumbed to his injuries on the same night Schultz was shot. Krompier, who had reportedly been told of the location, also fell victim to the syndicate's cleanup operation. He was gunned down in a New York barber shop, and although he survived the shooting, the rumored map he had made of the treasure's location was taken by his attackers. Without the map, Krompier could never recover the treasure, and he died years later, leaving the mystery unresolved. To this day, treasure hunters comb the forests of upstate New York, hoping to stumble upon the steel box packed with unimaginable wealth. Despite numerous expeditions and tantalizing rumors, Dutch Schultz's treasure has never been found. Some believe it was never buried at all, while others insist that Schultz's paranoid mind ensured that the fortune is still hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered by someone lucky enough to find the tree marked with an X. Schultz took his secret to the grave, leaving behind a tale of wealth, betrayal, and mystery that continues to captivate imaginations. Whether the treasure exists or not, the story of Dutch Schultz's lost fortune remains a fascinating piece of American folklore.
Subscribe and leave a comment saying "I subscribed," and I will personally reply to your comment.
Thanks for watching.